Hello, hello, and welcome back to Speak English with Luna. I am so incredibly happy that you decided to hit play today. Life is a beautiful journey, but let's be honest, sometimes the road gets a little bumpy. Have you ever had one of those days where nothing seems to go right? You spill your coffee, you miss your bus, and it feels like the universe is playing a prank on you? Well, today's episode is exactly for those moments. We are talking about how to handle a bad day. And I have someone very special here to help us navigate those stormy waters. Everyone, please welcome my dear friend, Oliver.
Thank you, Luna. It is a pleasure to be here. Hello to everyone listening. You're right, Luna. Bad days are a universal human experience. They don't care who you are or where you live, they just happen. But there is a certain art to moving through them without letting them break your spirit.
The art of moving through them. I love that phrasing, Oliver. And listeners, I have a little challenge for you today. This isn't just a conversation, it's an English workout. We are starting right now with some very clear, easy-to-follow English. It's friendly B1 level. But as the conversation gets a bit deeper, the English is going to get a bit more complex. We'll move into B2 and even some high-level C1 vocabulary near the end. My challenge to you is stay with us. Don't turn it off if it gets hard. If you can make it to the final minute of this 15-minute journey, your brain will thank you, and your English will reach a whole new level of aspirational. Are you ready to test yourself?
That's a wonderful challenge, Luna. Just like handling a bad day, learning a language requires staying present even when things feel a bit difficult or overwhelming.
Exactly. So, Oliver, let's set the scene. You live in Seattle, a city famous for its rain. To many people, a gray, rainy day is the definition of a bad day vibe. How do you start your morning when the sky is heavy and things feel off?
I used to wake up, look at the rain, and immediately feel a weight on my chest. I would think, oh no, not again. But I realized that my internal weather doesn't have to match the external weather. A bad day usually starts in the mind, long before anything actually bad happens. It's about our reaction to the world.
I feel that so much. Sometimes I wake up and I'm already frustrated because I'm thinking about my long to-do list. It's like I'm inviting the bad day in for tea before I've even brushed my teeth. Oliver, before we dive deeper into the strategies for these difficult moments, I want to take a quick second to speak directly to our listeners. Friends, if you're listening right now and you find yourself struggling to understand every single word we say, I want you to know that it is perfectly okay. This is a safe space. There is no pressure here. Sometimes when we are having a bad day, we become our own worst critics. We tell ourselves we aren't good enough or that we should be further along in our English journey. But right now, in this moment, you are exactly where you need to be.
That is such an important point, Luna. In my house, when things go wrong, maybe the car won't start or a project at work fails, we have a very simple rule. Give yourself grace. It means being as kind to yourself as you would to a dear friend. Language learning requires that same kind of grace. If a sentence sounds like a blur of noise, don't worry. Just let the rhythm of the language wash over you. We are all just practicing being human, and we are all just practicing being communicators.
Give yourself grace. I love that. Let's hold on to that feeling of safety as we move forward. Listeners, take a deep breath with us. We are in this together. No matter if your day has been a 10 out of 10 or a 1 out of 10, you are safe here with Luna and Oliver. We are going to protect this space for you to learn and grow. We are back, and now we're really getting into the meat of the conversation. I want to talk about the anatomy of a bad day. Oliver, I think everyone listening can relate to that snowball effect. When one small thing goes wrong, and then it feels like a giant snowball rolling down a mountain, getting bigger and faster until it crushes everything in its path. Can you share a time when you were right in the middle of that snowball?
Oh, absolutely. I remember a specific Tuesday about 3 years ago. I call it the Tuesday of total chaos. It started with a very simple mistake. I had a massive presentation for a high-stakes project at work. I had prepared for weeks, But that morning, my alarm didn't go off because of a power flicker during the night. I woke up 45 minutes late. I was instantly in a state of panic. My heart was racing and my mind was already spinning a web of worst-case scenarios.
Oh, the panic wake. That's the worst way to start. It's like your adrenaline is at a level 10 before you've even opened your eyes properly. What happened next?
It was a comedy of errors, really. I rushed to the kitchen, tried to make a quick espresso, and the machine malfunctioned, spraying hot coffee all over my white dress shirt. At that moment, I could feel my temper rising. I was catastrophizing. That's a great word for our listeners. I was telling myself, if I'm late, the client will leave. If the client leaves, I'll lose my job. If I lose my job, I'll lose my house. It's an irrational downward spiral.
Catastrophizing. That is such a powerful B2 level word. It's when our brain takes a small setback and turns it into a total disaster. I do that all the time with my English. If I forget one word in a meeting, I think, oh no, I've forgotten everything I ever learned. I'm a failure. It's so easy to let that one coffee stain represent your entire life's value in that moment.
Precisely. And the day continued to test me. I got into my car, and of course, there was a major accident on the highway. Traffic was at a standstill. I was sitting there, trapped in my car, staring at the clock, feeling the existential dread set in. I was sweating, my shirt was stained, and I felt completely powerless. But then, something shifted. I realized that my anger was not making the traffic move faster. My frustration was not cleaning my shirt. I was suffering twice, once from the events, and once from my reaction to them.
That is a profound realization, Oliver. You were suffering twice. I think many of us do that. We have the bad event, and then we layer a bad attitude on top of it, which makes the weight twice as heavy. So, how did you pivot? How did you change your perspective in that moment of existential dread?
I practiced what psychologists call cognitive reappraisal. It sounds fancy, but it basically means looking at the situation through a different lens. I took a deep breath, a real rib-expanding breath, and I said to myself, Oliver, you are currently safe. You are in a car. You have a job to go to. This is a moment of inconvenience, not a moment of ruin. I decided to use the time in traffic to call the client. I was honest. I told them, I'm having a bit of a chaotic morning, but I'm looking forward to seeing you shortly. And you know what? They were incredibly understanding. They had all had days like that too.
Wow, so by being vulnerable and honest, you actually connected with them on a human level. That's an amazing pivot. I want to pause here for our listeners. Oliver used some very high-level English there. He mentioned existential dread, that feeling of deep anxiety about your place in the world, and cognitive reappraisal, the ability to rethink your situation. This is what we mean by aspirational English. Even if you can't use those words yet, just hearing them in context helps your brain map out the complexity of the language.
Exactly. And I think it's important to note that handling a bad day doesn't mean you suddenly become happy. It's not about forced positivity. It's about fortitude. It's the strength to endure the discomfort without letting it define your character. By the time I reached the office, I was still late, and my shirt was still stained, but my spirit was intact. I walked into that room with a sense of resilience. I didn't let the bad day own me. I owned the day despite the circumstances.
I love that. I owned the day. Sometimes I feel like the day is a wild horse and I'm just trying to hang on to the mane for dear life. But what about when things are even more serious? Not just a coffee stain, but a real setback. How do we keep our English brain functioning when our emotional brain is screaming?
That's where mindfulness comes in. When we are stressed, our vocabulary tends to shrink. We use simple, angry words. If we can slow down, our access to more nuanced language returns. It's about emotional regulation. If you can name the emotion, I am feeling overwhelmed, I am feeling inadequate, you take away some of its power. In English, we have so many beautiful words to describe these shades of gray. Instead of just saying, I'm sad, we can say, I'm feeling a bit pensive, or I'm feeling slightly discouraged.
Oh, pensive. That's such a lovely C1 level word. It means thinking deeply about something, often with a hint of sadness. Oliver, this is so helpful. We are moving from the what of a bad day to the how of surviving it with our dignity and our English intact. It is time for my favorite part of the show, the word tour. This is where we take those big, juicy words we just used and break them down so you can start using them in your own life. Oliver, let's start with a classic one we mentioned, catastrophizing.
That is a mouthful. Catastrophizing is a verb. It means to imagine the worst possible outcome of a situation, even if it's not likely. For example, I missed one deadline and I'm already catastrophizing about losing my entire career. It's when your brain turns a molehill into a mountain.
I do that way too often. Next up is a phrase that felt very deep, existential dread. This is a noun phrase. It's that heavy, sinking feeling of deep anxiety about your life, your purpose, or the future. You might say, looking at my empty bank account filled me with a sense of existential dread. It's much stronger than just saying, I'm worried.
Very true. And to combat that, I mentioned cognitive reappraisal. This is a more technical C1 level term. It means the mental process of changing how you think about a situation to change how you feel about it. An example would be, through cognitive reappraisal, I stopped seeing the rain as gloomy and started seeing it as nourishing for the garden.
I love that shift. Let's look at pensive. It's an adjective. It describes someone who is lost in serious or sad thought. Oliver looked pensive as he stared out at the Seattle skyline.
And finally, resilience. This is a beautiful noun. It's the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties. It's toughness. You could say, her resilience after the accident was truly inspiring. It's the ability to bounce back.
Now that we've toured through those sophisticated words, it's time for our community challenge. This is my absolute favorite part of the show because I finally get to hear from all of you. We want to know, what is your secret weapon for handling a bad day? When you feel that existential dread creeping in, or when you find yourself catastrophizing about a small mistake at work or in your English studies, how do you pivot? Do you have a specific ritual, like taking a long walk, listening to a favorite song, or maybe just taking a deep breath and practicing some cognitive reappraisal?
We really want to see you use your new vocabulary. Try to describe your process using at least one of the words from today's word tour. It's the best way to move from just understanding a word to actually owning it.
So tell us, how do you find your resilience when things go wrong? We can't wait to read your responses. We have reached the finish line. Listeners, I want you to take a moment right now to be truly proud of yourselves. I asked you at the very beginning of this episode if you could stay with us for the full 15 minutes, even as the English became more complex and nuanced. If you are hearing my voice right now, you did it. You pushed through the existential dread of difficult vocabulary and found your focus. That is pure resilience in action. You didn't just learn new words, you proved that you have the stamina for high-level English.
It really is a significant achievement. Learning a language is not just about memorizing grammar, it's about the mental strength to stay present when things get challenging. You've proven today that you have the fortitude to handle a bad day and a difficult conversation.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you, Oliver, for sharing your wisdom and your stories with us today. It's been a pleasure. And to our amazing community, if you enjoyed this journey, please subscribe and share this episode with a friend who might be having a bad day of their own. Remember, your progress is a marathon, not a sprint. Keep practicing, keep listening, and most importantly, give yourself grace. I'm Luna, and we'll see you in the next episode. Goodbye.